Mr. Craig,
Here.
Mr. Freitas,
Mr. Freitas is absent today.
Mr. Sage, Mr. Sage.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. With that, I'll like you to look into my screen. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Southgate's mission statement, learning for life. Our vision statement, Southgate Schools, the best choice for students and parents. Brings us to item D, revisions and approval agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Pomponio. Do I have a second?
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Any discussion? Hearing none, please roll call vote.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos. Mr.
Yes.
Lamos? Oh,
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Do we have any citizens' comments, Ms. Grahowski, Ms. Pastor? None? Okay. All right, we're going to item G, the consent agenda, which includes the May 26, 2020 regular board meeting minutes, our HR update, and the disbursements for May 2020.
I'll move
I'd
the
like to-
consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Thank you, Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, will Ms. Grahowski give a roll call vote?
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moves us to item H. Getting into our business here. So we have first action item is number 1, the approval of the 1-year extension of the pizza contract. Who will be presenting?
I will.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So you're being asked to approve a 1-year contract extension for Cottage and Gourmet Pizza. This recommendation comes from Mark Rodriguez.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Yes,
I have-
Mr. Craig.
Do we know what that price is? It wasn't in the letter.
There's no change.
Do we know what it is though, or
I think it's $5.25 a pizza.
okay? When was the last time we bid this? Do you know?
3 years ago.
Yeah,
3 years
3 years.
Okay.
I do got one question.
Go ahead, Mr. Sage.
This is just for what we use. So in the event there was an issue and we weren't getting pizzas, we're not paying for anything it's not a contract that we're obligated to. It's only what we're using from them, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Any further questions?
I think this is only for like the elementary schools too, right? Or
That's correct. It's a K-5 contract. We bake our own pizza 6/12.
right? Okay.
Anybody else? Question for Ms. Pastor? All right. I'll entertain a motion for action item number 1.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 1-year extension of the pizza contract with Cottage and Gourmet Pizza for the 2020 and 2021 school year.
Support.
Thank you. Motion by Dr. Pomponio, support by Mr. Craig. Do we have any further discussion?
I just want to mention that between this and prior year pizzas with Domino's, I've heard nothing but good comments and feedback from this particular pizza.
Thank you, Dr. Pomponio. Anybody else? All right. Ms. Grahowski, will you please roll call vote? Action item number 1.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries on the contract extension for Cottage Pizza. Next up is action item number 2, which is our Board of Education 2021 calendar. 2020 and 2021 calendar. Did you need to speak to this, or is it pretty self-explanatory, Ms. Pastor?
It's pretty self-explanatory. It's the traditional second and fourth Tuesdays of most months. It does include only one board meeting in July and one in December.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Pastor?
I just wanted to mention that usually we have our board retreat in June or in the summer months. I don't know if we're wanting to do that in this calendar.
So I know we haven't discussed it since we have been meeting virtually as opposed to face-to-face. I don't know if Mr. Estheimer is thinking about a date in July or if that's something we want to check to see when we meet next week, if we can firm up a date for that.
That was going to be my suggestion. Would that be okay, Dr. Pomponio? I was thinking that when we're going to meet next Tuesday, that's something that we could put on the agenda to discuss. Would that work?
Oh, absolutely. That's fine.
All right, perfect. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Any other questions for Ms. Pastor? All right, and we'll entertain a motion for action item number 2, please.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept the attached calendar for the upcoming Board of Education meetings from August 2020 to June 2021.
Thank you. Do you have support?
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Dr. Pomponio and Mr. Craig, thank you so much. Any further discussion?
Just for the record, Mr. Sage supported that.
Gotcha. All right. Ms. Grahowski, will you please roll call vote?
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes. Tammy, you're on mute.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to action item number 3, the approval of the 1-year extension of the milk contract.
You're being asked to approve a 1-year contract extension for Berkshire Dairy. This recommendation comes from Mark Rodriguez. Please see the attached memo and details of the bid.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Pastor? All right, and we'll accept the motion for action item number 3 then.
Mr. President,
Mr. Craig.
I'll make a motion to approve the 1-year extension of the milk contract with Berkshire Dairy through the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you. And do we have a second for that motion?
Support.
Thank you. Is that Mr. Green or Mr. Sage?
Doesn't matter.
It was Mr. Green.
Thank you. Just matters for the one who's writing down the names.
I know.
All right.
I like
All right.
it.
Any further discussion on the action item? I like the way that they're this new bid system. I really like that. All right, Ms. Grahowski, will you please roll call vote?
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. So we got pizza, we got milk, we got bread. We just
Not
need
yet.
to get back into the school.
We almost have bread.
We don't have bread yet.
Oh, not yet. All right, action item number 4. Let's talk about the approval of the 1-year extension of the bread contract. Ms. Pastor.
You're being asked to approve a 1-year contract extension for Aunt Millie's Bakery. This recommendation comes from Mark Rodriguez. Please see the attached memo and details of the bid.
All right, can we get a motion for some bread?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 1-year extension of the bread contract with Aunt Millie's Bakery through the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Paponio. Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
You're welcome. Oh, you know that time it was me.
Any discussion?
Yeah,
All right.
I'll give
Yes.
you a question about the CoPro. Jill, do you know anything about that? This is the first year with Wayne Risa. What that is, the CoPro?
I know that in the past that Mark Rodriguez has bid these contracts with just a few districts downriver, and this is more of a Wayne County bid. So that's about
Okay.
the extent of what I know.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All right. Ms. Grohowski, please roll call vote.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Our last business item, action item of the night is a Chromebook purchase for action item number 5. Who will be presenting this tonight, Ms. Pastor?
Dr. Baker Herring.
Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead, Dr. Baker Herring.
Thank you. So this action item picks up kind of where we left off at our last board meeting when we approved the Schoology learning management system. So I added the background from the continuity of learning team. It was there actually in the Schoology quote as well, but this really kind of defines the reason why we're advocating for a one-to-one. So we really want to be as prepared as possible in any of the 3 scenarios that we're planning for, across the district, but also for those parents that are not comfortable with sending their students back in the fall, if that may be the case, and in case there's a second or a third wave. So we want to be prepared for that. So here is action item number 5. As per board policy 5003, all items that exceed $3,500 must be brought to the board for approval. I am recommending the purchase of 685 Chromebooks. 585 are touchscreen Chromebooks for the young 5 kindergarten and first grade students. On behalf of the Southgate Continuity of Learning team, the technology work group, to ensure that every student has a district issued device. This purchase will not cost more than $213,113,50 and may be covered with Title I, Title IIA, Title IV, 31A, CARES Act, and or bond funds.
Thank you. Do we have discussion for Dr. Baker Herring? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Now, it says may be covered. Will this purchase be covered through the CARE Act fund first, or will it be title money? Do we know which is going to cover it first?
Definitely title. I've already did an emergency amendment that was due last Friday, so there's some portion of that that's definitely going to be covered with title. But 31A and all of those are options.
So
Okay.
I'll speak towards the CARES Act fund. So we're, the recommendation is for us to save as much of those CARES Act dollars as we can for either purchasing protective equipment or for offsetting the cost of other issues during this pandemic.
Okay, but if we have to pay any portion of that, we have the money in the budget for the rest of the remaining amount if we need to cover that.
Yes, so this will not be covered out of general fund dollars is basically the bottom line.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Craig. Thank you, Dr. Paponio. Mr. Craig?
So we have no idea where this is going to be funded from, basically. Is that what we're being told?
No, basically it's going to be partially funded by
All
the,
of the grants. A little bit from each grant that I got to do an emergency amendment. A little is coming from Title II, Title IV, and 31A. And it could also be covered if needed, but honestly, we have plenty in those grant funds that I don't see it even touching CARES Act or bond at this time.
Okay, so each of those, the Title I, 2A, are those restricted funds? Is the title money restricted money?
Right now, there's flexibility to ensure that we have students that have access. So there's some flexibility with title funds at this time. So that's how this is able to be funded.
Well, when I say restricted, I mean Title One. That can go to things like general fund activities. It's just a way of moving it around, right?
No supplanting. It can only be over and above what we currently, fund through general fund. It has to be over and above.
Okay, and that's all of the title, whatever grants.
Title 1, yes. Title 2, Title 4, and 31A.
So Jason, they've loosened up the restrictions due to this pandemic and knowing that we didn't get to go to workshops, pay for subs. So we had extra money because we didn't use it during this pandemic. So that's why Michelle had to submit So she had to submit an original grant, the mid-year revisions, plus this emergency amendment that was due last Friday with flexibility.
But none of that's been approved yet?
So officially from the MDE, no.
Okay, and is there a rush to buy these right now?
Yes. Everyone in the United States and possibly the world are buying Chromebooks right now. So to ensure that we have Chromebooks for our students in the fall, and this is still even June I have a little bit of anxiety about them being ready to go for September 1st, but the longer we wait, we may not have them to begin the school year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Mr. Sage.
I apologize. And I might be off on this, but so the 585 for the young fives through first grade, correct? So you have $100 or $100 left. Where are we as far as needing more beyond that to meet the 1-to-1?
We're good. That's it. Because we have 6 through 12 right now as we sit with the purchase that I made that was finalized and approved in March.
Right.
We're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sage. Anyone else?
Yes, Tim, this is Rick.
Hey, Rick.
Our objective here is to get them to make sure we have them in the event that the way we're going to be conducting business will be enough remote that we have the tools we need, correct?
Correct.
So in the event that, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Rick, I also want to say that before any of this hit, our plan was to be 1-to-1 at the 6 through 12 level before any of this happened. We wanted to issue Chromebooks in 6th grade and reissue a new one when they went to high school. So this is not a brand new plan. This is just an expansion of what we already had planned.
So our opportunity here is to take the funds that are available to us because of the COVID to do what we probably would have done anyway.
100%.
Okay. So if in fact our instruction plans or operational plans change and we don't need all of these, is that, Dr. Herring, is that a possibility? Or will we still use these?
I think once we purchase Schoology as our learning management system, we are going to make sure that we have remote learning being able to take place and online options for all students K-12 next year. So, I mean, granted, there's a learning curve for some professional development for our teachers, but I mean, with this purchase, we will be able to say that we are a 1-to-1 district and we have the professional learning plans in place and ready to go this summer to ensure that we're able to address the needs of all students, whether or not they're face-to-face with us or learning remotely.
So I also want to say that this means that students will not be sharing devices, and whether or not we get a vaccine for COVID, sharing devices in any given year is problematic for just the general flu and cold. So this is better for students to have their own devices to use their throughout the different age levels in their school career.
Okay, and then finally, last question is from a compliance and governance standpoint, we've got the safeguards in place to manage the devices properly and keep them upgraded and not lose them and all that stuff?
Part of what comes with this bid is service and warranty and maintenance.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Tim.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions? I have one. When we're talking about Beacon, how do we attack that? Is it each individual districts that send their students there's responsibility to equip their children, or do we, as the host district, supply the devices for those folks over there at that school? How does Beacon fit into this?
I actually think that this year, and Wendy, you might be able to know more about the numbers that they have. I want to say that even during the pandemic, they were able to assign Chromebooks to students who didn't have access because they had enough. Just with the sheer numbers they have in their building, whatever it is, 150, 175. I want to say that they had enough Chromebooks in their building that they were able to do that if needed. So I think that Beacon and Asher are in a similar situation with the numbers of Chromebooks that they currently have.
So Tim, those funds generally come from the Wayne County Act 18 funds.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. I'll entertain a motion for action item number 5, Chromebook purchase.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the Chromebooks not to cost more than $239,113.50.
All right. Do we have support?
Support.
Mr. Lamas? Okay, thank you. All right. Any further discussion here at the table? Mr. Craig?
I have one. I realize it's not part of the motion as to where it's getting funded from, but I would really like to be made aware if it's going to be coming out of the CARES Act or the bond. I'm comfortable with it being funded through the title money. I'm a little less comfortable with the CARES Act funding and the bond money. So I would like to know if it's not covered under the title, any title grant money.
I would agree with Jason on that. This is Rick.
I'll be glad once we complete the purchase to let you know the exact amount that we took out of each of those accounts.
Okay. Thank you.
That's satisfactory to everyone?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Any other comments here amongst the board members? All right. Ms. Grahowski, please roll call vote. Action item number 5.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Motion carries. All right. Move us on to item I, employee representatives. Did we have any employees that submitted anything to speak tonight? No? All right. And item J, information and announcements.
We have something.
Go ahead, Dr. Pomponio.
I just wanted to say congratulations to all the seniors and the graduates of 2020. And I know that it was a little bit different this year, but I think that it was also very nice to see all the creative ideas that came about with all the caps that they had for their walking across to get their diplomas. But I know that they're not able to do that on a regular basis, but I thought that was a little added bonus for them. So it was nice, and congratulations again, and good luck with all the rest of the activities.
Thank you, Dr. Pomponio. Anybody else? Mr. Sage? Oh, okay. Anybody else?
Yes. I just wanted to say I had a chance to, this is Rick. I had a chance to visit the staff meeting today regarding our September's school operations decisions. So the staff and admin and teachers were discussing how to manage day-to-day activities when we are able to open for school in September. And I was pretty comfortable that Jill and the team have really are walking down a path that will have a good solid plan, irrespective of the exact scope of how we'll be teaching in September through next May and June. So I just wanted to mention that it sounded to me like good progress was being made. So thanks for inviting me, Jill. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mr. Lamas.
I will second that. And it was a little comical at some points in the meeting. So I appreciate that also.
Anybody else wish to have any information or announcements? I also wanted to, like Dr. Paponio, thank the administration and committee who planned, for instance, the commencement ceremonies this past week. Thanks to Ms. Pastor, Mr. Lyons, and my fellow board members who attended and supported those students. I did get great feedback from the families of all those students and those seniors. And once again, great job. Now looking forward to Thursday night, since we had a rain day for tomorrow night, and at the Flat Rock Speedway for one final salute and farewell to the class of 2020. Congratulations. And that's all I have. And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. President,
Mr. Craig.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Do we have a second?
Support. This is Rick.
All right. Supported by Mr. Lamas. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lamos,
Yes.
Dr. Pomponio,
Yes.
Mr. Sage,
Yes.
Mr. Estheimer,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Thank you. It is 7:26 p.m. and we are now officially adjourned. Thank you so much for taking time meeting with us today.